Hello, listeners. Welcome back to Dark Crossroads. This is your host, Roxanne Fletcher, and today we're going to be covering an urban legend instead of sticking to our true crime. I figured I would just be sprinkling a little extras in for you guys and hopefully doing more podcasts in the future. We're starting to get everything all situated and organized, so more to come. We will be covering true crime again in the next episode, so don't forget to stick around and come back for more. But with that said, let's jump into our urban legend this week. The urban legend we're covering is of a mysterious paranormal creature that have pale skin and are felt as sinister, terrifying, and at times dangerous by those who encounter them. They appear in everyday circumstances, such as at a gas station or hitchhiking. You might see them panhandling, and they may just end up knocking on your house or car door and end up stalking you in attempts to cause psychological harm. When coming into contact with them, you will suddenly notice something is not right about them. Their eyes, pure black from lid to lid, dead black orbs, devoid of sclera or iris, will chill up your spine. You will realize that you have finally come across the black-eyed children. They ask in breathless and monotone voices to use the bathroom, make a phone call, get a ride home, or for something to eat. They do not look threatening, but will be very persistent. In most reports, a small group of kids with all black eyes approaches an adult who's alone in a car or a house. The kids, usually 2 boys between the ages of 10 and 13, ask for a ride home or to be let into the house. Adults feel a sense of overwhelming fear before realizing that there's something drastically wrong with these children's eyes. But what or who are the black-eyed children? Typically, these children range in age from early adolescent to late teens, around 6 to 16 years old, and appeal to the adult's sympathy, often asking for help. Regardless of what they are, if you see a child with jet black eyes, proceed with caution. Dozens of stories have come to light, all following a very similar pattern. Kids with eyes completely blacked out appeared at people's homes or vehicles, knocking on the doors, insisting upon getting inside. Why do they insist on getting inside? Why do they try to force the person to give them permission to enter? Anyone who encountered them has almost immediately felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Besides blacked out eyes, these children typically appear normal. Sometimes their attire seems outdated, and in extremely unusual instances, people have reported encountering these creatures with talon-like feet. No one knows where or how these creatures have popped up, and some people believe that the black-eyed children are aliens trying to reach out to their Earth. Demonologists believe that these are children of the devil himself, and if you let them in, you are allowing the devil to enter your life. They will say they want to enter your home to call their parents. However, when making eye contact, it seems like there is a much sinister plot to the story. Some people claim that these children have existed since the 1980s. Some believe even earlier than that. However, most sources say the legend originated in 1996, or at least the first reported sightings of them. The first man that reported sightings of them said that he encountered 2 children in Abilene, Texas, with pale skin and black eyes. In 2012, he retold his story on the TV show Monsters and Mysteries in America. He then wrote an article for the Abilene Reporter News where he described his experience again, and many years later, mysterious black-eyed kids have been featured in a handful of creepypasta stories. This legend has even crossed bodies of water and popped up in the UK around 2014. A newspaper in the UK wrote 3 front-page stories about sightings of the black-eyed children in a haunted pub. Ghost hunters who believe that the black-eyed children are extraterrestrials, interdimensional beings, demons, vampires, or even ghosts have led these people to take these sightings very seriously. Nowadays, people still claim to see black-eyed children when driving late at night down an empty road, or outside of their window late at night, or even lurking in the shadows of their room. Many people have reported seeing the black-eyed children standing in the corner of their room during episodes of sleep paralysis, or even waking up in the middle of the night because they sensed someone watching them, and in the shadows, they found these children. I will go over some of the most sinister stories out there of encounters with black-eyed children. Hopefully this helps you so you can be prepared should they ever show up on your doorstep. The first encounter we're going to cover happened in January of 2016, when an elderly couple in the middle of nowhere snowy Vermont town heard the sound of 3 loud knocks on their door. When they opened the door, they saw 2 children, a boy and a girl. A blizzard was happening outside, and the children stood there shivering and said, "Parents will be here soon. May we come in?" And then continued to ask to use their phone. The children did not make eye contact and just stood there in the doorway. The elderly couple was unnerved and hesitant at first, but after a while, they made the tragic mistake of letting 2 of these children into their home. The kids settled on the couch while the wife made some hot chocolate and went to get the phone, and the husband asked them questions that went unanswered. The wife returned and noticed that her cat was scared and angry with the children. "May we please use the restroom?" After the children walked into the light of the family room, the woman realized their eyes were completely black. She directed them to the bathroom and returned to her husband, who was covering his face with his hands. "Did you see their eyes?" The husband then showed her his hand full of blood from a nosebleed. As she stared in horror, the power suddenly went out at the same time her husband's nose began to bleed. After what felt like an eternity, the wife headed to the restroom and was confronted by the voice of the kids at the end of the hall, uttering in unison, "Our parents are here." The kids exited the house, leaving the door wide open. The wife noticed that there were 2 men at the end of the driveway. The men were very tall and very slender. The wife waved to them, but did not receive the same friendly gesture. The woman watched as the 2 quietly left her house and went in a nondescript black car. The power then came back on a little after the kids had left, and throughout the next week, weird things happened in the house. 3 out of their 4 cats went missing, and the 4th had been found dead in a pool of its own blood. The woman's husband continued to have nosebleeds and was diagnosed with severe and aggressive skin cancer. The woman began to suffer from regular nosebleeds and an onslaught of other medical issues. She is convinced her failing health, along with her husband's, is a result of the children she let into their home. Another incident that occurred was in 2010 when a man encountered 2 black-eyed teenagers outside of his workplace. It was an ordinary July night in Ohio, and the man was in the middle of a night shift. Craving a cigarette, he stepped outside the building and noticed 2 teenage boys across the street. As he smoked a cigarette, he realized that the boys were staring at him. Weary, he returned to the safety of his cubicle and tried to refocus on his work, only to see through the security cameras that the boys had appeared in front of his building, motioning for him to come outside. Fed up, he went to the door, contemplating whether or not he should call the police. As if they had read his mind, the boys insisted that such an action was unnecessary. All they needed was to use a phone. The man refused and watched in horror as one of the boys continued to stare up at the security camera, while the other ventured to the back of the building, watching the cameras as though they could see what he was doing. With frayed nerves, the man contacted the police, watching the teenagers on the video feed the entire time. When the officers arrived on scene, he could not locate the teenagers anywhere, despite the fact that he never tore his eyes away from the video feed. Another incident happened on March 17, 2008, when a 12-year-old boy had a bone-chilling experience in an outlet parking lot. While waiting in his mother's truck for his mother to finish getting a haircut, he saw a boy walking across the parking lot. Thinking it was a friend from school, the boy ended up banging on the window until the other one turned around. Realizing it was not his friend, the boy in the truck watched in confusion as a strange other boy walked up and stared through the window. The boy caught one glance at the other boy's solid black eyes and knew he was staring into the face of evil. "You must let me in," the black-eyed boy demanded. Panicked, the boy in the car crouched under the glove compartment. After several minutes, the black-eyed boy finally disappeared. When the boy's mother returned to the truck, she informed her son that the black-eyed child had come into the salon demanding the keys to her vehicle. Thankfully, the boy's mother did not give in. Another incident happened on a night when a man was falling asleep in the spare bed in his infant daughter's room when he heard a strange bump outside his house. Initially, the man thought nothing of it, believing it to be the family cat, but the thumps continued. The man checked the porch, but the cat was nowhere to be found. He then walked into the kitchen and found two figures loitering outside his front door. They knocked on the door. Both were boys around 10 or 11 and gave off a pungent, moldy odor. "May we use your telegraph?" one of the boys said, looking up at the man. And to his horror, the man realized both boys had eyes that were completely black. Ignoring the odd remark about a telegraph, the man told the boy he didn't have service in his house and shut the door. As the man slowly made his way back to his daughter's room, the two boys slumped on the walls. The man clutched his daughter to his chest as the boys incessantly knocked against the window. Their eerie eyes and awful persistence made the man too scared to fall asleep. He remained crouched on the floor of the room for several hours, fighting to ignore the knocks that occurred every couple of minutes. The moment his wife's alarm went off, however, the knocking ceased, and the black-eyed children were nowhere to be seen. Another incident happened one evening when a man who was known as a reclusive, living in British Columbia, decided to go and see a scary movie at the local movie theater. Already on the edge of his seat because of the film, he leapt from his chair when he heard a knock on his door later that night. With each step he took towards the door, the man felt a sense of dread flood down his spine. Nevertheless, something compelled him to open the door. Standing on the front porch was a beautiful teenage girl. The man guessed she was around 6 feet tall, and she had beautiful blonde hair. "May I enter the premises?" the girl asked, looking up at the man with solid black eyes. Horrified by what he saw, the man screamed and slammed the door in her face. He marched to his bedroom, pulled out a gun, and sat in a chair in the corner until morning. Hours later, the man went to retrieve his mail. The black-eyed teen was nowhere to be found, but the word "soon" was etched into his front door. In early November of 2012, another incident of a woman who was up late watching a movie with her cat when it suddenly leapt off of her lap. The woman was left stunned as she followed her cat into the laundry room, but the cat refused to leave from its spot between the machines. Suddenly, the woman heard knocks on her door and figured that it was late trick-or-treaters. When she opened the door, the woman was met by 2 children, a boy and a girl. However, there was something strange about these children, who stood there looking into her house. They were not wearing costumes or holding any buckets for candy. The boy suddenly asked the woman if her cat had left, which arose concern in the woman. Then the girl whispered to the woman, "We need to get inside." The boy was staring at her and grinning. Feeling fearful, she noticed that their eyes were completely black. The woman shut the door and called the police. The police only found footprints that led into the forest behind the woman's house. And it wasn't until months later that the woman found a makeshift bed in her gardening shed. On a Thanksgiving in 2015, another incident with a woman who was enjoying holiday on her own in her own house heard a knock on a door. It was around 7:30 at night, and when she heard the knock on the door, she believed it was her neighbors, so she opened the door without looking. However, there stood two boys outside of the door with an eerie stance. They avoided any eye contact, but kept insisting they needed to enter the house. The woman became very hesitant, which is when the older of the two boys became very persistent. It is here that they finally looked up and the woman noticed that they had completely black eyes. She shut the door on them, but they continued to knock on the door. Eventually, she fell asleep during the early morning with all the lights on and the TV playing. But when she woke, she found all the lights were turned off and the TV filled with black and white static. There had been someone, or something, in her house. The last of the stories is about a man who one evening decided he was going to head out to run some errands and pay a bill. He pulled over next to a movie theater and began to write a check by the light of the marquee. A loud knock on his driver's side window startled him. He looked over and saw two kids of about 10 years old wearing hooded sweatshirts with the hoods up. Fear swept through the man at the sight of the kids, but he rolled the window down anyway. What he saw next honestly freaked him out. The kids' eyes were entirely black, eyelid to eyelid. The boy who knocked asked for a ride home so they could get money from his mom to watch a movie. "It won't take long, we're just kids." Unnerved, the man rolled the window up and threw the car into reverse. The leader of the two kids called to him through the window, "We can't come in unless you tell us it's okay. Let us in." The man hurriedly drove away and glanced in his rearview mirror at the boys. But they had vanished. They vanished and disappeared in only a few seconds. Okay, guys, so thank you for coming back and listening to another episode of Dark Crossroads. We are super excited to be intertwining a little spookiness with our true crime and adding a little bit more episodes during the week. So, with that said, let us know what you want to hear. Let us know what cases you want us to cover. You can message us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or you can write to us through our website, www.darkcrossroadspodcast.com. You can also check out the blog on the website and listen to any of the newest episodes. The blogs have extra content a little bit, pictures and links and stuff that go with each episode. Don't forget to follow, rate, review, subscribe on the podcast and on social media. All little acts like that help support the show in an easy way, but it also bumps us up in the ratings and gets us seen by more people. And also, you can check out our Patreon at patreon.com/darkcrossroads. And there, if you sign up, you're donating once a month a small amount of money, which just helps the podcast keep going and helps us get the resources for all of these cases. But you will also get extra content, and coming up, you will start getting promo codes to some merch and a bunch of other stuff, extra videos and recordings. So with that, thank you for checking back in, and don't forget to be weird, stay different, and don't trust anyone. All right, we'll see you next time. Bye.